Excelsior! Welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. Today we have Marvel 75 years from pulp to pop. For some reason on my list it said from pop to pulp. I copied it wrong, I guess? I don't know. Either way, this is a short documentary. I think it probably premiered on ABC right around the time when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was moving into its first or second season or so. This is 2014. It is 42 minutes long, and this is already very much out of date. Except for if you need a high level early history for the casual viewer who doesn't want to go too deep on all the controversy and back and forth with all the early origins of timely comics, Marvel comics, and all the creators that came out of that era and the characters that came out of that era. If you just want to kind of know where it all came from, this is good. This is good for you. Once they move out of the pulp era and into the more pop era, it's, like I said, it's already out of date because this is 9 years old. Yes, there's lots of footage with Stan talking about how they created Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four and Captain America and everything else. Well, Jack Kirby and Joe Simon created Captain America before there was a Marvel Comics, but still. In this, once they get to the pop era where they talk about MCU, the Avengers movies, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and everything to come, even that Ant-Man movie that was still just they got a little peek in there of that Ant-Man thing, Paul Rudd. And this also focused on all the other spin-offs and properties without sounding bitter at all. There's a lot of ups and downs. They talk about all the ups and downs, but sort of just skim over the top. There's obviously a lot more that goes into the bankruptcy era of Marvel and what it took to come back from that. A little movie called Iron Man, and making comics better. The 90s were a bad era for comics. That was the era when they started selling off all the characters to different studios, and that's why the X-Men and Fantastic Four were at Fox and Spider-Man went to Sony and everything else, and we didn't think we'd ever see all those characters together under one umbrella. Well, a lot has changed, and of course the Disney era is mentioned. Of course, how Disney buying Marvel changed so many things. But of course, this is so early, it doesn't mention that, of course, Disney took 20th Century Fox back. The deal they made with Sony to allow Spider-Man to join the MCU. So all these things are still far in the future. There might be an inkling in Kevin Feige's mind at this point that those things could be possible, but I don't think so. So there's also, like the mention of the Netflix series, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, the Defenders. There's talk of those characters and how great it was to have them on there. But yeah, that's a different era. Oh, well, we brought them into the fold. They're now on Disney Plus. Awesome. So yeah, there's so much more. There's an endless series of books, comics, podcasts, film documentaries, TV series. There's an endless number of those things. Well, maybe not endless, but there's a lot. There's a lot of documentaries and behind the scenes talk about how Marvel rose to power, fell in shame, and rose again. And the story is still not completely written, of course. This is 2014, by the way, so they're in their haha phase in the sense where, oh yeah, we had really popular movies like, Iron Man and Captain America and Thor, and we had Avengers with Joss Whedon, who hadn't fallen from grace just yet. Yeah. And then there's, Guardians of the Galaxy had just come out with a talking tree and a talking raccoon, and that was going to be Marvel's first big failure. Well, they got to, basically rub it in everybody's face in this and go, hey, you know what? It made $500 million. It made nearly $1 billion box office right at the time of this being made. So yeah, it's we can't be stopped kind of attitude. And yeah, there's been ups and downs throughout the MCU, whether it's in the films or the Disney Plus series or other things like that. And also network TV series, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Peggy Carter. By the way, the very end of this is all about, this is why I thought I had never seen this before, but now I realize I have. Since this was paired with an evening with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., this was also a vehicle to say, hey, here's, watch this documentary, hour-long thing, 42 minutes but without the commercials. But we're going to show you a sneak peek of Peggy Carter, the new series on ABC, at the end. And so you get a neat little tease of Peggy Carter talking with Howard Stark and Jarvis in what I believe was the first episode of the series, or second, I don't know. Either way, that series was to come in January of 2015. So, excuse me. Either way, this is a good fun little time capsule for Marvel fans, but also for casual fans who just want to understand where it all came from, without getting too into the weeds. So, names you want to know. Of course, Stan Lee. Everybody knows Stan Lee. He's been the face, the cheerleader, the master of Marvel, in a sense, for years, until he passed away a number of years ago. But before him, there was Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. Jack the King Kirby. If there's ever an artist who has shaped the look of comic books, and therefore the look of how we see superheroes in any medium, it's because of him. It's to ever minimize Jack Kirby's contribution to comics, to pop culture, to anything, is a disgrace to minimize that. So he passed away in the 90s. Unfortunately, I never got to meet him. Never got to just... I've met Stan many times. One of my first San Diego Comic Con I ever went to, it was somewhat empty on preview night, which is not the case anymore. I saw him coming right toward me, walking right toward me, and I lost all sense in my brain and walked right up to him and shook his hand and said, thanks. Honestly, I don't even remember exactly what order the words came out. I just thanks for everything, man. Thank you for everything you've done. Mr. Verbal diarrhea right there. But how do you beat that for your first Comic-Con? Meeting Stan Lee, just me, and he had, two security type guys with him, but nobody stopped me. He's like, oh, thank you. Hey, you're welcome. And he was Stan. It was kind of great. But I've met him a number of times over the years, and it's kind of fantastic that, he's a controversial figure in itself. In fact, we might learn a little bit more about Stan later this week, because Disney Plus is releasing a documentary about the life of Stan Lee on 6/16, June 16th. If you don't understand what 6/16 is, well, then you are a Marvel zombie. You understand exactly why they released it on that day. Or it was just a really weird coincidence. But I have a feeling that's not the case. Anyway, I say, if you're a Marvel fan or just even a casual fan, you want to understand where all these characters came from, you're going to see a ton. If you're a Marvel nerd like me, you're going to see a ton of faces, some of which don't even work for Marvel anymore, like Brian Bendis. But you'll see Kevin Smith, you'll see Seth Green, you'll see Todd McFarlane, artist, one of the founders of Image, used to work for Marvel. He helped design the most iconic look for Venom. You see people talking about the contributions of Jack and Joe and Steve Ditko when it came to Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. By the way, at this point, I think there wasn't even there's not even an acknowledgement there's going to be a Doctor Strange movie. Maybe we knew about it. at that point, but it's not even discussed in this documentary. Emily Van Camp, by the way, Agent 13, hosts this episode from the set of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so you see her walking around reading a scripted bit of things. I don't know if she was totally into it, but, you know, a majority of this is just lots and lots of interview footage and a couple Comic-Con clips from the stage and how they all had no idea how big Iron Man would blow up and be a humongous touchstone. But yeah, you get to see a little bit of ups and downs. You get to see how Marvel reflected in pop culture from World War II onward. One of my most fun things to realize, and I've heard this story before, but it's the idea that when it came to World War II, America was very much not about to go into that war. They didn't want to get. They just came out of it. There was a World War One. There was the Great War just a number of years ago, before the Great Depression and everything else. And nobody wanted to deal with another war until, you know, Pearl Harbor made us kind of invest in it. But at a time when so many comic book creators were Jewish and they knew what was going on over in Europe, Jack Kirby, Joe Simon, the guys who created Superman as well. Yeah. And people weren't going to necessarily be quiet. And when they created Captain America, punching, the cover of the first issue has Captain America punching Hitler in the face. That's a hero. That's an American hero. And they got letters, angry letters from the American Nazi Party. Yeah, that was a thing. There was way too many of them. There's still too many of them now. They just don't write letters. They just vote a certain way and try to overthrow democracy. So either way, they just touch on that just a little bit. I wish I could tell you other documentaries to look into, but hey, if you want to see more of this, on Friday, I'll be talking about the new Stan Lee documentary. So that's a little sneak peek. That's in 2 days. So I'm going to pick tomorrow's episode right now.
66.
66. If it could have been 616, that would have been cool. But I think that's already been picked. 66. I kind of almost feel like I have to change the way this is done, because all we're getting is documentary reality things. And we're going to get one on Friday because it's a Stan Lee documentary. We got to burn through them eventually, but I mean, still. Either way, I'm not sure what this is. It's fairly generic in its title, but we'll find out soon enough tomorrow when we watch Breakthrough. Breakthrough. What are we breaking through? I have no idea. But that's Breakthrough on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.